and sisters, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, welcome to Morning Baraka, exclusively on Imam Hussein TV. I hope you're having a great morning because if you've just joined the show and you don't really know what it's all about, Morning Baraka essentially is the way to start your day through the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and really connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through du'as and supplications. However, this morning show encompasses a lot because it's basically a talk show as well, where we have different segments. However, the discussions around current affairs and relevant topics related to you, the dear audience. We discuss spirituality, ethics, some jurisprudence, depending on the situation. We're talking culture, food, we're talking clothing, retail. There's a lot of discussion points that we have across Morning Baraka. It's a very, very much an intriguing show. So welcome to the show. Now, since you're here, let me tell you what's coming up. Today, we're talking food and nutrition, as I have registered nutritionist Sukaina Abdul Hussein here in the studio, talking about the problem with our diets. And she's even brought in some ingredients for us to analyze here in the studio. You don't want to miss that. And then, of course, find out which fast food restaurant Yasser visits that have something very unique about them. That's just after 11. And of course, we end our show with the dua of Tuesday, recited by Ahmed Rakabi from the holy city of Karbala. And sticking with the theme of food, that is what is on the menu today. The problem with nutrition in our community, to kickstart the show, a unique restaurant with Yasser's discoveries, and ending with the dua of Tuesday, inshallah. Hi there, welcome to the show. Now, nutrition in our world has a set of distinct challenges that shape dietary habits and health outcomes. The prevalence of processed and convenience foods, often high in sugars, saturated fats and salt, contributes to the growing rates of obesity and health-related issues. Our diets, with an abundance of fast food and sugary beverages, has become a major concern for public health. Throw in qima, nihari, biryani and kubide into our diets and it's a recipe for disaster. I'm going to pause there because I hope you got the pun. I'm quite high on playing on words and I really shouldn't be saying this anyway, but I thought, I'm going to mention this. So yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. Anyway, I shouldn't really be talking about that. Now, transforming dietary habits is a major task for us all. So I'm delighted to be joined by registered nutritionist Sukaina Abdul Hussein, who will not only give us the lowdown into nutritional tips we can implement into our diets, but we're also doing a bit of a show and tell where Sukaina will dissect certain foods and their benefits. So Sukaina, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So before we went on air, we talked about essentially the pros and cons of the current diets within our community.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I wanted to first and foremost kind of open up the discussion around the general dietary habits of our community now. Could we kind of open the discussion around there?
Yeah, I think obviously the rates of obesity, like you said, is on the rise. High cholesterol, diabetes, things like that it's major conditions that are common within our communities.
Yeah.
That's because of the amount of high sugary foods that we consume, high levels of salt that we consume as well.
Yeah.
I'm very much a nutritionist that believes in balance, but I don't believe in restriction.
Right.
But the other side of it is an extreme version as well, where we're having overconsumption of these different types of food.
Okay.
So it is a major issue. And I think education is so empowering to make sure that you understand what works for you as an individual, your nutrition, in order to make change going forward.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And we were saying off air that, when I do speak to my mother about certain dietary habits, she's like, well, you know what, Mum, I've been living this way for the last 30, 40 years of my life. And I don't really want to change it. Is there a care from the elders? Let's start with the elders in our community who have introduced those diets within us, and then we have to kind of introduce new diets to our next generation. But if we start from the elders, I mean, how bad is their diet?
I mean, you put me on the spot here, but it can be bad because obviously it's a cultural shift that we need to be mindful of.
Okay.
Back home, for example, piling the plate really high with food is a common thing. Okay. Oily food, especially in the South Asian culture, is the more oil on top, the more delicious the food. Right. So that's very much cultural from the top down. Yep. But as we're progressing and the newer generation are more aware and educated, it is becoming better. But obviously, because our roots are sort of built with certain dietary habits, it's hard to remove that. Yeah. Even when you look at a child, right? If, for example, they say, "Mum, I'm full." Okay. And, the mother would be like, "Nope, you have to finish your food." Yeah. And there's a certain amount of food that's been put on this child's plate. Yes. And you have to finish it. Yes. So we're ignoring our natural hunger cues, right? And the child will be brought up thinking that they have to finish all the food on their plate. And culturally as well, showing love through food is a thing. Yeah, okay. So it's a big issue, but we are getting better at it. And like I said, education is so key to make sure we find that balance. Touching upon the children, that's a very, very good point, because we've read, and I've personally experienced as well, where trying to force food into children. What long-lasting impacts does that have on children when you're forcing them to finish a certain portion? Massive. They will have a very broken relationship with food. I work with children currently who are, I guess, fussy eaters at the age of like 6, 7, 8, because when they're younger, they've almost been force-fed, because even if they don't like a certain food, they're like, no, you have, like the parents were like, no, you have to sit there and eat this food. It becomes traumatic for them. Yeah. They basically get a broken relationship with food eventually, and then they stop trying new foods because they fear that food. Okay. And they have that scare of, what if I won't like it? And they sort of connect it to their childhood. This is a very interesting point, because there are certain... Why is it that kids have a preference for one type of food over the other? Because kids, naturally, they have an open palate, right? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, they have an open palate, and then whatever they kind of like and dislike, is that based on just a natural thing in terms of their taste buds, or is that through a more traumatic experience? Well, it could be traumatic experience, number one, or number two, the look of foods and the smell of foods and the texture is a big thing for children. Okay. So when I work with children, what we do is a fear-based test, where we I blindfold them, and I get them to use their 5 senses to try new foods. Okay. And it's foods that are completely like weird and bizarre sometimes, that they wouldn't have tried. Okay. And then afterwards they're like, actually I like this, but it's getting into that point. Because they're so scared of what it might look like, what it tastes like. It might be too spicy. Yeah. So usually, fussy eaters would go for carbohydrates, like plain pasta, plain rice, things like that. And sugary foods is their like go-to as well. Yeah. But other than that, they do struggle. So moving on in their lives then, we have instances where young girls, for example, have eating disorders, and they often see themselves, of course, social media and the presence of the perfect female model, them trying to
to be like that means that, you know, they often see themselves as disproportionately kind of obese or fat or whatever, all those terms.
Yeah.
Where does that stem from? That again, I want to steer away from the whole image side, but the actual eating side, so the nutrition side.
Yeah.
Where does that stem from in terms of their insecurities?
Yeah. Social media is a big thing right now. There's a lot of conflicting information on social media when it comes to nutrition. Fad diets are on the rise because of it. And it's just a lot of miscommunication and misinformation. So people tend to think, you know, carbohydrates are bad for you. You need to steer away from carbohydrates. But actually, we do need carbohydrates in our diet, in the right portions, of course, but we still need it. It's our main source of energy. There's other diets that are like high fat, low carbs. Now, I'm not demonizing any diet in particular, but it's important to be educated around what we actually need to nourish ourselves. And if you look online, I recently did a reel on social media, and I was showing that people were saying spinach is bad for you, eggs is bad for you, peanut butter is bad for you. You know, everything, every sort of food is being demonized now, and that's because of social media. And people that are not qualified are unfortunately giving advice on social media. And then, you know, young girls are looking at that. And thinking, oh, actually, I might try this new diet. Or, oh, this worked for this person, I might try that. But you are as unique as your personality type when it comes to nutrition. So you have to do what works for you as an individual.
And I guess that moves into, in terms of the importance of tapping into your body's natural hunger cues. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So we have two types of hunger. We have physical hunger, and that's where you're physically hungry, right? You might get your stomach might be growling, for example, or you might feel have low energy, and that's when you eat and you feel nourished. Then you have hedonic hunger.
Hedonic?
And that's basically where you eat for pleasure. So when you go for a wedding, you might eat biryani. Are you hungry for wedding cake afterwards?
Probably, It's because of the occasion.
Yes, but that's hedonic hunger, because you're not physically hungry. You want to eat for pleasure. It's a delicious food. And that's when you tap into your hunger cues and be like, okay, I'm about to eat for pleasure, and that's okay. But how much am I going to eat? If there was gulab jamun and cake and ras malai or whatever else, or basbousa on the table, are you going to eat all of that? Or do you want to just pick the one thing that you want and just satisfy your craving, and then take it from there, as opposed to going all out with all those different sugary foods?
How bad is hedonic? How bad is it? And what can it lead to?
Overeating, emotional eating, because you're not really able to tap into your natural body cues. And we live in a society now where everything's like go, 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 and we're constantly like not being mindful. So we really need to tap into our hunger cues and be mindful that actually, am I physically hungry? Am I eating for boredom? Am I eating because it's a delicious food, but I'm not actually hungry? And how much am I going to eat? But it's a big, big issue because we're so on the go, we don't really connect with our food.
What is your opinion on vegan foods and free from?
So free from foods, so things like gluten and dairy, obviously there are loads of people that require to go gluten and dairy free because they have intolerances or allergies, or they might be celiac, for example, IBS, all of that. But for the general person, if, for example, they haven't got any digestive sort of issues or anything that I've mentioned, it's not harmful, it's not bad for you. You know, like I said, you have to find the balance with everything, and every single food group has its own portions that you should be considering.
The reason why I ask, and from an Islamic perspective, of course, you know, when it goes into the narrations, the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt do recommend you eat meat to a certain proportion. They do recommend that you have certain dairy products within your diet. But there's been, over the last couple of years, a major war against traditional foods coming from the vegan the vegan people, and the war is that, you know, dairy is really bad for you, meat is really bad for you, but here's this lab processed meat that you can have.
Right.
So tell us about, I guess, the Islamic connotations, if you can, of a balanced diet using meat, and then is it really true what they say in terms of the whole vegan thing?
Yeah. I mean, Islamically, obviously, we know that we should be consuming meat. It's every 40 days, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, yes, that's we need to be consuming meat, and God's given us that ruling.
Yeah.
However, we're over-consuming meat at the same time as a nation. And we do need to be opting for more plant-based alternatives. The processed meats, as we call it depends on what type. So we have different levels of processed, right? We have processed foods, and then we have ultra-processed foods, right? The processed foods is things like tinned chickpeas are also processed.
Really?
So processed basically means that you're altering, it's not in its natural form anymore.
Yes.
So you're altering it somehow.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for you. Ultra-processed foods, things like
Chicken nuggets,
for example, to a certain degree. There's some chicken nuggets on the market that might be healthier for you, and within balance, it's okay. But it depends on how much you're consuming.
Yeah.
Are obviously some things that we have to be more mindful of.
Okay. And last thing before we kind of go on to the break, certain diets or fads that have come out, like keto diet, for example. How useful is, everyone was talking about keto diet a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
How useful is that?
So the keto diet was generally made up for children that had epilepsy to help manage their seizures.
Right.
However, people are using it to sort of lose weight. Claims are that they feel good, etc. I'm not here to demonize one specific diet, because I know that generally nutrition is very bespoke to you as an individual. So whatever works for you, as long as you're finding balance and as long as you're nourishing yourself. But it's not something that I recommend for my clients. Neither would I go on the keto either. Plus, we enjoy food, and that's okay.
So what is a keto?
So it's high fat, low carb, essentially. It's a very restrictive diet to follow, and it's not sustainable long term either. So a lot of my clients, for example, if they're weight loss clients, they would come to me and be like, I've tried the keto diet, it's worked, I've lost weight, and which you would, because you're obviously restricting yourself so much, but it's not sustainable. I have a broken relationship with food. I'm an emotional eater, and I just want more balance when it comes to my food.
So what do you recommend as a balanced, I mean, I guess you're right, it depends on each person's situation. So they could be going through trauma and emotionally eating, and or they could be depressed and they could be eating, they have a broken relationship with food. But on a general scale, what would be a balanced diet? Take us through morning, afternoon and evening. So
I won't take you through the different stages of the day. What I will say is the different food groups that you need to have. So for example, we need to have fruits and vegetables, at least 5 minimum, more vegetables than fruit. Then we have carbohydrates. So usual portions is typically between 2 to 3 portions per day. That's complex carbohydrates. So things like brown rice, brown pasta, brown bread, oats. People think that, again, carbohydrates not good for you, but they are very, very nourishing. They will give you the energy, but it's the type of carbohydrates you're going for. So opting for those whole grain varieties will give you the fiber and long-lasting energy and all the nourishment that you need. Then you need protein in your diet.
Before you get into protein, so things like pizza, although it's carbs, avoid.
Not avoid.
Not avoid, but maintain, regulate.
Yeah, so I like to call it everyday foods and occasional foods. Right? So your everyday foods are your nourishing foods, and then your occasional foods are the ones that are high in fat and sugar.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we can't enjoy them in moderation.
Right.
And they can make up part of our diet. But we have to find balance with them.
Right. Okay, cool. There's a lot more that I wanted to discuss, but owing to time, we're going to take a very, very small break, ladies and gentlemen, where after the break, Sukaina and myself are going to go to the station where we're going to go through different ingredients and foods and essentially analyze that for you and for you to benefit and be able to understand how to implement them within your diets. So, inshallah, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. After that, we're dissecting food.
I ask you all to support Imam Hussein TV, for the future of your youth, for the future of Shiaism. Every single person's life is dependent on your education. And Imam Hussein TV provides you a free Islamic education.
If you want to have good programs, if you want to have a source to help your community, your children, your families, do not hesitate. This is the month of rewarding. This is the month of istighfar, the month of khayrat.
Imam Hussein is a name that unites us all. And this is the one area where we can put aside our differences and come together. I hope that the viewers at home will help donate to the channel and to build a platform for the future generations.
I stand here before you, my dear brothers and sisters, to invite one and all to donate generously to ensure that the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam is kept alive.
Beautiful programs we have. One of that program is Shia Voice. The Shia Voice try to bring up talented from east, from west, from north, from south. But to show this, to make this program, it needs your donation, your generous donation. Please help, please support Imam Hussein TV.
We need your generous support. With your support, there could be more documentaries. With your support, there could be more programs. With your support, Shia Voice may come to your community. We cannot continue this without your generous donations. In this holy month of Ramadan, a month of charity, a month of giving, a month of generosity, come together, join us on Imam Hussein TV and generously donate as you always have done, so we may continue to provide programs which serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of course the holy household.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. As we enter the depths of winter, back home in Afghanistan, the temperature is below freezing. Our brothers and sisters are suffering. While millions struggle to cope with the harsh winter, some innocent lives don't make it to the new year. Survival for families can be as simple as keeping their homes warm. At Imam Hussein Charity, we aim to provide heating fuel for an entire household. With just $150 or 135 British pounds, we can supply enough coal to burn throughout the winter months. It only takes a minute to make an impact that can last a lifetime. Donate today to protect thousands of people from the brutal cold. Visit www.imamhusseincharity.com. Thank you very much.
More than 3,000 members of the Shia Hazara community have been killed since September 2011, according to reports.
Hundreds of Iraqi pilgrims arrive at the house of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi.
On Saturday, the Saudi authorities executed 21 people on other charges.
Taliban abusing humanitarian aid in Afghanistan.
Shia Rights Watch expresses its condemnation on the targeted bombings in the Iraqi capital Baghdad.
There is so much happening that now is the right moment to bring together the biggest stories in one place at one time. It's ambitious, it's a first for the Shia around the world. Join me, Ayoub Nueno, for Shia Waves, live only on Imam Hussein TV Free.
Welcome back, dear viewers, to Morning Baraka. If you've just joined us, we are talking nutrition, one of the newest topics on Morning Baraka. So what I wanted to do is not only get the guests to talk the theory side of things, but also speak about the practical side of things. So we have brought together some ingredients as recommended by our registered nutritionist who's here with us today, Sukaina Abdul Hussein, who has given us a shopping list before the show to tell us we want 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we're going to talk about these specific ingredients so that you, the dear viewers, can benefit, inshallah, and take something from this show. So, Sukaina, thank you very much once again for being on the show. We talked a lot about kind of the theory side of overall diets, eating habits, triggers. What did you call the triggers? Natural. Hunger cues, triggers cues, natural hunger cues. All of that was fantastic. Now, bringing this to life, we have a whole host of ingredients, and I think you're going to take us through one by one. However, the overall theme around this is gut health, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to walk us through what we're doing here.
Okay, fab. So a little bit about the gut. Now, there's a lot of latest research and emerging studies to suggest that our gut is essentially our second brain. And if we don't look after our gut, it can have a knock-on effect on so many different functions in our body.
Right.
So our gut can be related to our skin, our metabolism, our energy levels. It's also connected somewhat to weight loss, for example, and weight management. And we need to be looking after this second brain of ours and essentially our powerhouse to then support overall health.
Side note, is that why people say I have a gut feeling?
Yes, I mean, because it's connected exactly straight to our brain, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool.
And then the butterflies in the stomach as well.
Okay, all right.
So it does come from somewhere, yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So our gut is basically made up of trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, for example, fungi, all of this good stuff. And they can either be good bugs that can support health or bad bugs that can sort of trigger illness. And we want to basically make sure that those good bugs are thriving and we're enhancing those good bugs. How do we do that? Through the diet. Number one, making sure that we have loads of colour.
Colour?
Yeah, on our plate. When we look at our plate, think about how much colour you have on your plate. Okay? The more colour that you have in your plate in terms of vegetables, the better for your gut.
Right.
The better for your health.
Right.
Now, for example...
What are those?
These are peppers.
Peppers.
Now we have red peppers, green peppers, yellow peppers.
Right.
All of them have different vitamins and minerals that are good for you.
Okay.
And they're different.
Okay.
So plant diversity is very, very key to make sure that you're getting a variety of different vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and polyphenols in your diet to support your gut.
Okay. Fantastic.
So if you usually go for yellow peppers, go for red instead. Or mixed peppers.
The go-to in our household and my parents' house was green. We didn't really experiment with red and yellow for some reason. But but they're different. I mean, look, I'm very, very novice and I'm very amateur when it comes to food. Those who know me, like I go to my go-tos and that's about it. I'm very bland. There's no colour in my diet. So yellow, green and red all mean different things.
In terms of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
So the more colour that you have in your plate, the better for your gut health.
What if I just colour rice to purple and...
I mean...
Okay, cool.
Yeah, not like that.
No.
And also, this is kefir.
Kefir.
Have you tried kefir before?
No, I'm not a dairy person.
Would you like to try some?
No.
Okay, so kefir is a yogurt. It's a fermented yogurt.
Okay.
It is very good for you. Fermented foods generally are very good for your gut.
Side note. People hear bacteria and they immediately think bad.
Yeah.
But however, I know that sometimes certain drinks and certain food, you want to awake the bacteria. Right?
Exactly.
Walk us through that.
Exactly. So, like I said, there's probiotics.
Probiotics, that's the one, yeah.
That are found in fermented foods, that are found in so many different fruits and vegetables, for example, that will be good for our gut, that will enhance those good bugs to support our gut. So when we think bacteria, yes, we think bad, but actually we do need bacteria to support us going forward. So this is one example of fermented foods. You have kimchi, for example, which is another one. Sauerkraut, sourdough bread. These are all probiotics that are really good for us. Yogurt just generally has live bacteria in it. When you go to a supermarket, go for the ones that says live bio or bio live. And those will have live microorganisms that will feed your gut better.
And kefir is not a brand, it's a type of...
Yeah, it's a type of fermented yogurt. Essentially.
Okay, cool.
So that's that.
Right.
And then we have all of these lovely tin vegetables.
These stuff here,
yeah?
Okay.
So again, when it comes to our gut health, we have to think about how many fruits and vegetables we have, how many different whole grains we have in our diet, how many different pulses and beans and all of that. And all of these good stuff, not only will it provide fibre and protein, but it also support our gut. Now, the only thing that I'll say is a lot of people think that tin varieties are bad for you. They are processed and not as good as the fresh version. In terms of the nutritional content, it's very, very similar. The only thing that I would suggest, so these ones are in salt water.
Okay.
You can see it at the back. It says white beans and salted water.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we're going wrong. We need to make, yeah.
Okay,
so
cool. Sorry guys, this is wrong. Yeah, just so everyone knows. I remember I got this list, but I'm not really a food guy, so I don't really know. So I just went for anything that I saw.
Yeah.
So beans, 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 and beans. However, these, no disrespect to the brand, but these are wrong.
As in,
salted water.
Yeah, because
Okay.
they're in salted water.
Right.
We want to opt for, beans that are in plain water because we don't need the extra salt.
Right.
In our diet, to be honest with you, because we're having way too much anyway.
Okay.
But again, that will really help feed those good microorganisms in our gut and help our gut health to thrive.
Right.
So that's basically gut health in a nutshell.
Okay.
The only thing that I would love for the audience to take away is think colour.
Colour.
Think plant diversity. How many different, as in how many different fruits and vegetables can you get in your diet? When you're looking at your plate, how much colour are you seeing?
Okay.
If you're not seeing that much colour,
What if it's just one colour?
I mean, so for example, let's say you were having keema rice,
Right.
Right?
Yeah. That's
You
white
can
and red.
put peas into it, for example, or a lamb curry. You can put spinach into it. Think about you can still enjoy the foods that you enjoy, but think colour and think about adding things in.
Okay, fine.
You don't
fine.
seem very convinced.
Yeah. Yeah, peas and sweet corn and stuff like that. I'm not really that much of a fan, but I guess I need to introduce a bit more colour to my diet. Right.
Yeah. So that's that in a nutshell in terms of gut health.
Okay. So there's many more different ingredients.
Yeah. So that's more about the sugar element of it.
Okay. So what are the oranges doing here then? For
Okay,
example?
so let's go through a quick exercise.
Okay.
Tell me how much. So Public Health England recommend a maximum allowance of sugar per day. Doesn't mean that you should reach that amount.
Yeah.
It just means that's a maximum allowance that you should have. How many sugar cubes do you reckon that
is the maximum allowance?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 5 of these.
Okay. So add 2 more, 6, 7.
Okay.
Okay.
That's close. Okay.
Right. So if we were to take a standard, this is a big Cadbury bar.
Yeah.
But if we were to go for the standard size one, how many sugar cubes do you think are in here? That's standard size.
And a standard size,
Yeah.
I would assume double this.
Okay.
So 14.
Okay. It would contain 6.
Oh, okay.
But
that's just one chocolate bar.
That's one chocolate bar. Across the day, we have sugar in our tea and our coffee. We have sugar in our ketchup. Right, hidden sugars as well.
Yeah.
So we're not really mindful. So whilst I promote balance, we need to be educated of how much sugar we're consuming generally, and be mindful and zoom out and look at our dietary patterns as a whole, as a foods in isolation. So one Cadbury bar isn't bad for you.
Right.
Of course it's not.
But that means if you're not having the tea and the coffee and
if
the
you're
ketchup
not having
and
the
every
added
others.
sugar across the day as well.
Okay.
So you have to zoom out and look at your dietary patterns as a whole.
Right.
So that's number one.
What's the long-lasting impact of sugar?
Type 2 diabetes.
Diabetes.
It could lead to obesity as well. There is generally you would have low energy levels, for example.
There's a question that I had in mind. A lot of people, especially when they become a bit older and they're just so used to their dietary habits and it's very hard to take them away from that. What they say is that, look, I don't see any effects of it now. I'm enjoying it now and I don't see it instantly. So for example, I personally get this. If I have a very sugary sweet, those jelly sweets with a lot of sugar on them.
Yeah.
If I have 2 or 3, immediately I feel like my blood pressure is rising. Maybe I should get that checked out actually. But I feel the immediate effects of it, so I just stay away from it. But a lot of people don't see the instant impact of sugar, and they only see that, say, 20 years later.
Right.
How would you be able to tell them in a way, look,
Yeah.
this is what's going to happen?
Yeah. This is the thing. So when I work with clients, I say to them, what's your why, right? They might be like, oh, I just want to reduce sugar. Why? And they will say, because I want to be healthier. Why? Right? Maybe you want to play with your grandchildren when you're older, have energy levels, live longer, right? So it's understanding that why element of it to help them understand that actually, yes, you might not see the consequences short term, but long term you will.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the sugars.
So that's a Cadbury bar. What about Monster?
Oh wow! In terms of sugar.
Yeah. How many?
I mean, these guys are
sugar
supposed to
cubes?
be energy and they won't obviously say they're good for you.
Yeah.
But
So this is a 500 ml.
right,
How many sugar cubes do you think it contains?
20 of these.
13.
13.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is still massive. If you
That's
look at that
almost
visually,
double.
would you
the-
put 13 sugar cubes in your tea?
No, I wouldn't.
So why would we drink it?
So why doesn't it taste that sweet? They have other things to.
Because they add other things into it as well. And look, you can just see here they have glucose syrup on top
Oh my god.
as well. So there's a lot of sugar,
Yeah.
not just added physical sugar.
Okay.
This sort of thing is we have to be mindful of. Kids are consuming this as if it's like a normal thing.
Yeah. Red Bull.
Red Bull again, same like.
If
very
it's sugar free.
Okay, so sweeteners to a certain degree are fine. Obviously,
Yeah.
opting for the sugar-free would be better for you.
Okay.
But it's also how many sweeteners you consume, because that can have a knock-on effect on your gut health as well over time. So
Okay.
again, it's being mindful of and being moderate with your
Right.
consumption.
Right.
This is organic, says fat-free, bio-live, like I said.
Yeah.
How much sugar cubes do you think? this
Sugar.
is? Yeah.
In that. 10.
Okay, so it contains per 100 grams around 3.5 sugar cubes.
Okay.
Now, marketing-wise, you
Very
can
healthy.
see, yes.
Yeah.
So when you see this at the supermarket, you'll pick this up and be like, oh, this is healthy, fat-free, organic. But because it's flavoured, they add the added sugar. So this is why I always recommend going for plain yogurt and then adding fruits on top, for example, berries or whatever
Right.
to sweeten it, as opposed to going for something like this.
The flavoured ones.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Year Valley. Okay. I know Year Valley. Okay. Right.
And then lastly, the oranges versus the orange
oranges.
juice.
Okay.
So there's a massive hype right now. I don't know if you've seen a lot online about somebody claiming that orange juice, they prefer somebody to have Coke instead of orange juice.
Uh-huh.
And there's been a lot of like hype around it recently. Now, to explain this contains sugar and so does this.
Right.
The sugars in this is natural sugars that don't affect our blood sugar levels in the
Right.
same way that this does.
Okay.
Reason being is because it's in the chemical, it's basically within the cells, the
Okay.
sugars within the cells of the orange.
Yeah.
When you blend it, you're losing the fiber, number one, but you're also converting into something called free sugars.
Right.
Free sugars is what makes your blood sugar levels go up and then
Yeah.
crash very quickly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So free sugars can be orange, like juices, the added sugar, honey, syrups,
Okay, honey.
all of that stuff. Yeah, I know Islamically, honey is great for us
Yes.
and it's beneficial.
Yes.
But it's how much
Very.
we're consuming.
Okay. So it's quite a lot to take in. However,
Yeah.
if you just, what's the bottom line on this? What if there's like a go-to, avoid this, do that?
Okay, so avoid is not the
Sorry, balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, balance. Sorry, not avoid,
Right.
balance.
We need to find the balance with it. So
Okay.
yes, we can enjoy the Cadbury bar,
Right.
but again, how much are you consuming throughout the week?
Okay.
Looking at your dietary habits as a whole.
Yeah.
Looking after your gut, looking after how much colour you have on your plate,
Right.
right? Considering that. So yes, all of these foods you can have, and you can also have the orange juice, for example. 150 ml still counts towards your 5 a day because it contains vitamins and
Even
minerals.
if it's, I mean, this says 100% pure orange
Yeah.
juice, but
So-
from concentrate though.
Yes, but still, it still contains vitamins and minerals that are good for you.
Okay, cool.
Right? But obviously, the fresher the orange juice, the better. And 150 ml is around this much.
Okay, sorry, wrong.
So that's, so we're over-consuming it, number one. And number two, we are demonizing it as well at the same time when we shouldn't be.
Okay, fantastic, cool. Right, there's one last thing in terms of, I guess, supermarket shelves, what to look out for?
Yeah.
All
I
of
mean,
these?
Well,
Oh, we mentioned,
like
okay.
for example, something like this, right, where it looks healthy.
Right.
What I really recommend is always looking at your back of house packaging.
Okay.
And making sure that the ingredients, what's actually in it. Usually it lists it from the highest ingredient in the food.
the product, yeah.
In the product, and then it goes down. So this one's, for example, yogurt, then sugar. That's the second
I
ingredient.
get you.
Organic sugar, but it's still sugar.
Right. Right.
So you have to be careful around that.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Sukaina, to have you. It's been very insightful. I'm sure that we've just touched the surface of what we can actually do in terms of the foods and how to implement this into our lives and having a balanced, not avoiding, but balanced diet. Sukaina Abdul Hussein, thank you so much for your time.
No
really
worries.
appreciate it. Right, up next, dear brothers and sisters, it will be Yasir's discoveries, and discover essentially a very important historical change made by Imam Ali alayhi salam that is specifically on this day, which is also coming up next. But also Yasir Mansour gives us an insight into his latest food discovery that's up next after the break. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Herat, Afghanistan. In a dimly lit room, a young mother despairingly kindles a lantern. Casting a warm, flickering glow across the room, her eager children await their first meal. With her limited supply of food, she prepares a simple dinner for her family. Hope, unity, and love in the face of adversity fill the air as they gather together in this fleeting moment, unaware of what tomorrow will bring.
Mommy, I'm freezing. Me too, darling. Have some water.
Fell in love with my other part of my life, the other chapter of my book, I suppose.
Okay.
And that was hip hop.
Oh, right.
Hip hop plays.
I thought it was a female, but you went.
No. Well, father's a Khoja, my mother's English. So
You look like Uncle Baxter.
Uncle Fester.
Is that Uncle Fester?
Uncle Fester. Living in quite a small town, I witnessed racism towards my dad. Mum and dad divorced quite early. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear.
Fergie, Wergie, Bergie, Reg.
So that's the guy that built the Empire State Building.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so this is in New York.
Okay.
So I thought, let's pick his nose. Until my son was born, I would be out. I'd be DJing, clubs, venues. There's one simple thing that brought me out of it, and his name is Imam Ali.
MashaAllah.
That's it.
Many thanks to Sukaina Abdul Hussein, who gave us a fantastic insight into food and nutrition, our relationship with food, and specifically not avoiding, but having a balanced nutritional diet. So we looked into certain sugars, gut health, what to look out for in the supermarkets. So if you're just joined us, I do highly recommend that you go back to the YouTube and find out where this episode was, so that you can have a fantastic insight into food and nutrition from Sukaina. Now, on the topic of food, many within our community attempt to find new and innovative ways to engage with their customers, those who have restaurants. Now, burger joints, at the end of the day, remain as they are, burgers. Because it's really the experience of the customer that plays a pivotal role in that business becoming successful. So Yasir is once again in Northwest London, where he's uncovered a new restaurant that truly has a unique customer experience. Yasir Mansour with more.
Thanks, Mulla. And today I'm outside a restaurant owned by one of our very own Shia brothers, located right here in Northwest London, called Shrunk Burgers. Now, you might just think this is your typical gourmet burger joint, but there's a major twist. The hint is in its name. Join me as we discover inside. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. After I've shown you everything in Shrunk Burgers, how they cook, the kitchen, the seating, the interior design, I'm here now with one of my brothers, Sayyid Muhammad al-Musi. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina. Allah yasa'adak. Sayyidina, first of all, thank you so much for letting us into your restaurant, showing me how everything is run, and honestly, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you tawfiq in what you're doing. Sayyidina, to go straight into the point, not waste any of the viewers' time, I wanted to ask you, what makes Shrunk Burgers so unique? And how did it start?
Yeah, sure. Assalamu alaikum. Well, Shrunk Burgers, it started with an idea that instead of having one big burger, one flavor, you get full. Rather than that, you have small burgers, mini burgers, that you get to try different flavors, whether it's beef, whether it's chicken, different flavors of beef or chicken, or any vegetarian ones. So yeah, you get full of a few flavors rather off one big one.
Yeah.
That's the whole concept, that's the whole idea, and that's the uniqueness, I think, about us.
Yeah, 100%. It's even in the name, Shrunk Burgers.
There you go.
And could you just tell me, like, when did it start, how it went down, all of that stuff?
Sure, it started off, again, with just an idea during COVID time, around 2020, and I had this place already, so I was thinking of ideas of what to do, something unique, something different that London needs. And alhamdulillah, I came up with this idea, and I, with a bit of consistency and hard work, done the interior, after the interior, done the menu, and just went from there. Alhamdulillah, we are here right now, 2 years after opening.
Alhamdulillah, and may Allah let you run for longer, inshallah. Sayyidina, one last thing is, for any of the viewers that want to maybe start their own restaurant business, what advice would you give to them that maybe you wish you had when starting this business?
Be ready for the hard work, the daily work rate that you have to put in. You have to always be there. It's you have to be consistent as well.
100%.
So anyone that wants to get into something like this, whether it's a restaurant or any other business, food industry or not, you have to be consistent.
100%.
You have to put a lot of hard work and planning.
Yeah.
Plan ahead. And with all those, I think you will be successful, inshallah.
Inshallah. Well, there you had it, viewers. MashaAllah, Sayyid Muhammad Musawi and Shrunk Burgers. May Allah give them tawfiq. And this is exclusive advice from Sayyid Muhammad Musawi to any of you that might be wanting to start a business. And there you have it, Mulla Ali, Shrunk Burgers. Now, honestly, if you were to ask me what I found so special about this restaurant, I can give you two major points. That number one, the interior design is unmatched. The colors, the lighting, everything about this place shouts unique. Number two, it's how the burgers are cooked and the size of the burgers. That honestly, instead of getting full off of just one big burger, you can now order 2, 3, or maybe 4 different type of burgers to get full of. That your palate doesn't have to have one flavor, but rather it can be filled with different flavors. Now, if that's not unique, I don't know what is. And ladies and gentlemen, that was a Morning Baraka exclusive, Yasser's Discoveries. Over to you, Mulla Ali.
Many thanks, Yasser Mansour. And that was Yasser's Discoveries. I look forward to his next discovery on Morning Baraka. Approximately on this day, 14 centuries ago, in the year 36 after Hijrah, a major change occurred in the Islamic government. The headquarters of the Islamic Ummah changed from Medina to Kufa. After the successful battle of Jamal that took place in Basra, southern Iraq, Imam Ali a.s. decided to transfer the headquarters of his government from Medina in Hijaz to Kufa in Iraq. After law and order had been restored in Basra, he appointed Abdullah ibn Abbas as its new governor and then left for Kufa, which became henceforth the new capital of Islam. On Rajab the 12th, i.e. tomorrow, of 36 after Hijrah, Imam Ali a.s. arrived at the gates of Kufa. The nobles of the city came out to greet him and to congratulate him on his victory. Entering the city, Imam Ali first went into the great mosque, offered the prayer of thanksgiving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for victory, and then delivered a speech in which he thanked the people of Kufa for their support and commended them for their gallant performance in the Battle of Jamal. The nobles of Kufa actually requested Imam Ali salam to stay at the governor's palace, but he did not agree. Instead, he chose a humble house, a small, humble home for his residence. Now, historians have tried to find out the reasons why Imam Ali salam changed the capital from Medina to Kufa. And here are some of the reasons. Firstly, the Battle of Jamal was fought and was won with the aid of the people of Kufa. So Imam Ali salam made Kufa his capital partly in recognition of this service by them. Maybe Imam Ali salam, in another note, was anxious to save Medina from havoc of the civil strife, like the one which had ended in the murder of Uthman. He didn't want Medina to basically become the locale of political disturbances at any time. And he wanted to save the city of the Prophet from destruction or desecration in the possible wars of the future. Number 3, Kufa had a more central position in the empire. And so the administrative facility of the vast and sprawling territories dictated this particular change. And number 4, one theory suggests actually that it was easier for Imam Ali salam to watch the movements of Muawiyah from Kufa rather than from Medina. And that was on this day. And as ever, we end today's show with essentially the dua, the supplication of the day of Tuesday, as recited by Brother Ahmed al-Rikabi, and the dua was recommended and given to us by Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. So we end the show with the dua and the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please make the beginning of this day of mine righteousness, its middle prosperity, and its end success. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحق